To introduce Bill Van Ness, who is not a stranger to any of us in this room. He is the news director and the operational director for Stillwater Radio. But probably the thing I love about him the most is he is the play-by-play for the OSU girls softball and soccer, also does Perkins Tryon football, and does our own basketball for Stillwater High. I don't believe there's anybody much better. Think about Dave also. You guys are both in the same playing field. He knows how to paint the picture of the game. And there's many times I've not been able to make it there, but I feel like I'm there because of his words and his pictures. He knows everyone and everybody in Stillwater. On the side, he flips vehicles and tractors. And probably one of the most meaningful things to me was being at his wife's funeral a year ago next week. I don't believe I've ever been around someone that could keep their composure and paint the picture that he did about the relationship that he had with Brenda. And I appreciate Bill very much. I appreciate his team members being here to support him today. And we're going to be blessed. Bill?
I'm going to go ahead and hold this. So I do this. For those of you who don't know who I am, I just thought I'd throw that out there for reference. Let me get my my notes out here. Got the right ones. No, this says I've been summoned. Excuse me. It'll be just a moment. Start off like string bean and say you all know my folks, but first of all, they're dead, and so is he, and that's a hee-haw reference, and I won't have another one of those. How many of you like hee-haw, by the way? You know what I'm talking about, okay? All right. So we'll do this for Bucko. I have appreciated the time that I get to do this, because I don't get to do this very often. I'm actually, as Jimmy Wright kind of alluded to a moment ago, getting on the road to head to Ames, Iowa. Dr. Halligan will know very much about Ames. You love Iowa State, don't you, Jim? Well, that's what I mean, but that was sarcastic, and he took it the wrong way. But anyway, and you're going to do softball tomorrow, and I hope we get to play because it's supposed to stop snowing up there today so we can play up there tomorrow. I've been in Stillwater since November of 1998. I've been here 2 other times before that to do other events that I've done here. I covered Media Day, the day of the year Barry Sanders won the Heisman. Do I talk to him? No. I talked to Pat Jones and Stacy Satterwhite. Some of you in this room will know who I'm talking about. So I missed Barry, but I got to talk to him later. In fact, I met Barry Sanders officially 10 minutes before Mike Gundy went on the rant. He was out in front of Gallagher-Iba, and Mike's standing there. He's got the newspaper, which he later showed the world, in his back pocket. And I know what it is. I'm not going to say anything as to how I knew what it was, but he says, Bill, I want you to meet Barry Sanders. Because Mike Gundy talks just like Pat Jones, right? Okay. And so with a little bit more and better hair, he says, I want you to meet Barry Sanders. Remember? And so Mike steps out of the way, and here's this little pint-sized man who I immediately recognize, and you would too, as Barry Sanders. Hello, how are you? That's Barry Sanders back to me. It was very nice to meet you, Barry. It's good to finally meet you. And then I told the story I just told you guys a moment ago about Pat Jones and Stacy Satterwhite. And then we go in the room, and it's one of the few times I go to the press conference, and Mike goes nuts. I'm next to a wall. I'm trying to go through the wall. The event's over here. I'm trying to just melt into this concrete wall just to get out of the room because the only exit is right there. And Mike has it blocked, telling everybody he's a man, he's 40. So my timing is, there you go. My timing is sometimes everything. I have the best job in this town. It's not the highest paying job. It's not even the highest profile job, with all respect to Mr. McClendon over here. Let that sink in for a moment. All right, thank you. And I say that because Mike Gundy has both of those jobs, the highest paying and the most highest profile. But the reason why I have the best job in this town is because I get to do a couple of things. I get to cover the news every day of this town and others around us. And that's fun, even when it's bad, because I got into this business to do exactly what I'm doing. I got hooked on radio when I was 8 years old. I'd been listening long before that. But I visited a radio station when I was a kid in third grade. And we walk in the room and there's like 20 of us in the class. And I hear a familiar voice coming from these speakers that are outside in this hallway, in this radio station in New England, where my parents lived for 6 months, 10. And it's Arthur Godfrey. Now, some of you in this room may remember Arthur Godfrey. Others of you, like the mayor, wasn't even born yet. So you don't even know who Arthur Godfrey. But Arthur Godfrey had a morning radio show every day, Monday through Friday on CBS. Well, they're a CBS affiliate at the station. And so I hear Arthur Godfrey. Raise my hand. Is that Arthur Godfrey? Yeah. Is he here? I had no concept of networks at the time. He says, no, he's not here. He's in New York. We carry the show. Come here, kid. And so the program director takes me aside and takes me through the entire building, leaves the group. I got to see the whole complex. And at that point, I go, this is everything I thought it was. I want to do this when I'm an adult. Well, I got to do it starting when I was 16 and was not an adult. Not yet. Sometimes I don't think I am now. But it's fun. And like I said, when you cover the news on a daily basis, the good, the bad, the ugly, stories like Mr. Lambert's son and others, they come up to the surface. And you have to deal with that. And sometimes you have to put your emotions to a side and just say, I'll deal with this in a minute. Right now, I've got to do this. And then you hope you have somebody that will hear you when you're done. We've had a number of those here since I've been here. I pray we don't have any more. I want to see the good news of this town. And I'm like the mayor over here in one aspect. We're male, for starters. The second thing is we both think there's a lot of positive right now in Stillwater. And there is. And people like Mr. McClendon and me and others who are in this business need to tell that story to the world every day. But we also need to tell the story to ourselves. And that's in part why I got into this business and why I came here in 1998, because I saw the opportunity here. And my children grew up here. They all live here. I can't tell you their names in less than 90 seconds. And my grandchildren, and there's 7 of those people. There's 4 grandkids. I got one who's 13 going on 16. He'll be 13 next week. He wants to bust his knuckles making car engines and things of that nature. And he can throw a fastball through a car wash. He's 82 on the gun as a lefty right now. I said, kid, don't you want to go to college and at least get a, no, I want to build cars. I said, you're crazy. Come back and talk to me in 3 years. I'll be your agent. I have 2 other granddaughters who are younger, 6 and 3. The 3-year-old is too polite for her own age right now. And I have a 1-year-old grandson. And the 2 grand boys are in the same family, and so are the granddaughters. So it's a house full when they come to my house. But I love every minute of it. I have the number 1 job in this town for another reason. I get to go cover sports on a weekly basis, and sometimes more than 3-4 events a week, and tell the story of that particular game, as I did last night in Wichita. When the windbreak got up behind me and left all of our fans that were there last night, it got real cold real fast. In fact, I didn't get warm. Those of you who know the Kansas Turnpike, where Belle Plain is, I didn't get warm in the car till we got there. It's a 25-mile drive. And I had it on high, about to roast my son out. He didn't bring a coat. I'm fine. I'm not cold. Aha. I'm over here freezing to death. But I get to cover sports, whether it's high school or college, and the Cowgirls have a good chance of winning this year if they can get past OU. And I enjoy that. I always said to myself, the day I don't want to do that's the day I'm going to turn in the keys. Well, I still have my keys in my pocket. And I'm probably 3 seasons away from retirement because I still want to be able to do things when I get older. And I've kidded people forever in Oklahoma. You'll probably get all the roads fixed about the time I can't drive anymore. I have a bet with an ODOT engineer that that does not happen, that they will never get it. It's kind of like the interstate system. They'll never get it done. Radio, folks, is theater of the mind. Whether you're listening to Jay, me, Rex Holt, or anybody outside of Stillwater, or anybody else that's in town doing radio, it's theater of the mind. And the reason is not because we're trying to sell radios. It's because we're trying to entertain or inform and communicate with you at the same time. Now, sometimes we don't do that very well, and that's our fault. But radio is not dead. If anything, radio, local radio in particular, is still weaving its way through the fabric of this country. Not as much as it used to, because there's not a lot of us local broadcasters left. A lot of it is corporate. They could give a rat's rear end about how you feel in Stillwater, Oklahoma, because they're trying to push a product. Well, guess what? We do. Again, folks like Mr. McClendon and others are in the same boat. They're trying to push local. In fact, shop local is a wrong term. It should be locally, but it's kind of like the cigarette ad back in the day. It's kind of like the cigarette ad back in the day. I'm not going to correct them. Like a cigarette should be as a cigarette should. But we're not supposed to talk about cigarettes on the radio anymore, so I won't do that. I grew up listening to the great announcers of the Midwest. Guys like, hey, Harry Carey here. You know, he wasn't Will Ferrell's joke way back in the day. Harry was a damn good broadcaster in the 60s and into the 70s when he was with St. Louis and when he was with the Cubs even after that, before he had a stroke. After that, not so much. And Jack Buck and guys in Chicago like Jack Brickhouse and Jack Dries and people I've met along the way. I've got to meet a lot of great broadcasters, guys like Bill Mercer down in Texas, who Craig Way and guys like that are some of his boys that went to North Texas and learned the business and do it the way it should be done. And guys like Dave Hunsiker, who I think is a gem of a broadcaster and a guy that figured it out when he was young, that this is what I want to do and I enjoy doing it. But it's not for me. It's not about me, and it's not about me. It's about you all out there. In the first place, as we find out now with the internet, you never know who's listening. But that's also good and bad, because there was a guy named Kurt Gowdy who came through here who ended up in New York and Boston because somebody heard him doing Oklahoma State football and basketball and hired him away from Wyoming to come here first on his way to NBC in the Hall of Fame. So I had a friend of mine to tell me this one time, and it's the truth, is that you don't regret what you haven't done. You can't, and like Bill Young said many years ago in football, you can't deal with what you don't have. You can only deal with what you have. And I think what we have where we are here is very good. And all of you are a part of that. And people who aren't here are a part of that as well. One more thing about radio, and then I'm going to answer questions if you have any. I mentioned Jack Buck a moment ago. If I have a mentor, it's him. And he did this speech when he was named in the Radio Hall of Fame. He was in the 12 Hall of Fame in his life. My Hall of Fame is Grandpa. I'll take that. He said, turn the radio on. You'll find and hear a friend. You'll learn, you will enjoy, you will imagine, you'll improve. And by the way, I'm going to throw this in. If you aren't improving, something else, that's on you. Turn the radio on at home, in your car, on the beach, in a nursing home, in prison, on your phone. You can do that, some of these. You will not be alone. You will never be alone. And radio, he said, remains the trusted common denominator in our nation. As I said before, local radio in particular still weaves its way through the country. And it's folks like us, people like Enid, Bartlesville, McAllister, and Chickasha, and many of the other smaller communities in our state that are good radio operators that make that happen. And we enjoy doing that, or frankly, we wouldn't be doing it. It's kind of like other businesses. I am a student of broadcasting. I grew up wanting to do it. I'm a person who likes the history of it. We're into our second decade now of broadcast, like you know it, like you hear it every day. And the reason why I have the number one job in Stillwater is because I get to do what nobody else does, and that's both elements that I told you about a moment ago. There are guys that do sports. There are people who do news. I'm the only one that does both, and that is a privilege I do not take lightly. I'm very serious about what I do, but I can also have fun with the next guy. And this career has taken me everywhere from Florida to Iowa, where I went to high school. Bill Fennelly and I were high school classmates. The head coach at Iowa State's women's program. He's a damn sight more famous than I am. By about 3 notches. I'm probably number 4 on the list. He's number 1 on the list. Now that group of 900. But I'm just saying it's taken me to Texas and to Oklahoma and to Missouri, where I went to school at Missouri State. We never win anything, by the way, so don't knock what you have here ever. Okay? It's a great program here at Oklahoma State. And get to see people and students and athletes and have fun and make a little money doing it. And I'm not going to work until I drop, but I plan on working until I damn near drop. Thank you. Now, if anyone has any legitimate questions, I have a half an hour here, so it's like, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Anybody have any questions? After the war, 1945, 46, 47. Yeah. And there was a guy driving down, well, a guy listening to him on KOMA AM in Oklahoma City was driving through and heard the broadcast in the western part of the country and contacted him to be the next broadcaster with Mel Allen and with Red Barber for the Yankees. Ended up later in Boston, and then a lot of us know him from his work on TV at NBC. And I got to meet Mr. Gowdy in '78 when, ironically, Eddie Sutton was at Arkansas at the Final Four. So that was pretty cool. Over here. Hi, Chris. I didn't see you come in. Go ahead.
Do you have any unfinished projects that you're looking to wrap up, whether it's a book or some kind of audio series?
You know, people have asked me, why don't you write a book? Rex Holt has a better book in him than I do. But, yeah, I've been asked if I would do that. And it's not just my story I would tell. It would be the story of our business. That's been told many times. The trick is I have to have the time to write it. I think the only time I'd have time to write it is when I'm retired, because they won't let me get away to do anything else except something like this. And then I'm gone for like an hour. But anyway, but no, I've thought about it actually, or an audio series. Sure. I'm still trying to figure out, folks, what strategic media means. I don't even know what that means. It's past me, but I know what journalism is. I know what broadcasting is. So that's how long ago I went to college. But I thank you for asking the question. Anyone else? Can you use the mic there?
Sorry about that. Having
newspaper
done
man.
live as long as you have,
Live and local, thank you. But,
you have to have a good blooper story.
by the way, the TV people have nothing on live and local. Radio was here first. Go ahead. Do I have? Well,
Okay.
Look.
All I want is a quick
hold
blooper
on.
story.
You and I have a mutual disagreement. I'm sorry, a mutual agreement here. Neither one of us like TV. You got out of it.
You're right.
You were smart. I never got into it because here's the deal. Base for radio, you kidding me? I'm down to a profile now. Come on. Go ahead with your, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Excuse me.
What's your best blooper story?
The FU time on the air with a hot mic. Never assume any mic is not hot. It didn't happen here. It happened in Missouri 43 years ago, and I should have gotten fired. Here's what happened. I sit down and this wasn't even live. This is recorded. I made 2 versions of a daily sportscast, one that should have been deleted and one that wasn't. It's called tape. And we had those little 4-track, 8-track type cartridges that you used back in the day to record programs on. Well, the guy in the morning, and this is my fault, the guy in the morning played the wrong one, and the wrong one had the error on it. And I couldn't say a word, and I just finally, because when you mess up, you got to erase them and start all over back in the day. It's not digital like it is today. The FU pooper got on the air. Fortunately, it was an AM daytime radio station that didn't have all that much ratings, but it did when the boss's wife heard it. I should have gotten fired, but Larry Dixon did me a favor and kept me on staff because he didn't have anybody else to do sports. So that's another reason why I'm in Stillwater, Oklahoma. Yes. Anybody else? Hold on.
What do you enjoy? What sport do you enjoy calling the best?
I like football. I actually like softball the best because it's over faster. It is fun. No, and sometimes it's not. Like last night, not so much. But no, it's fun. It's fast paced. And by the way, in reference to what Jimmy Ray Mead said about me losing my wife a year ago, sports and my job and my work has been great therapy. Now, after I'm here today and realize what I just said, I may go back to the car and start crying. But it has been great therapy. It really has. I love football. Who doesn't, right? Anybody here hate football? See, you didn't let me finish the question. Anybody here hate football at all? Okay. Y'all like basketball? Basketball was my bridge at my house between football and softball. My wife always knew where I was on the air. Infidelity in my family was never an issue because my wife always said, well, you're on the air. You don't have time for anything else. And she was right. But I love softball. It's a lot of fun. I called my first game, was the first one I ever saw at OSU in the old ballpark. Mike Noteware, who some of you may know, came over to the field. That's before we had Cowgirl Stadium, and he says, now here are the rules. It's 43 feet and 60 feet. The ball is bigger and it's a different color, and they have this international tiebreaker, the Ghost Runner rule, that we never use. First game against Kansas, 9th inning, they put the runner on second because it's a 3-3 game, and I go, this is the rule you were talking about? Yeah, this is it. First game I ever did on the radio was OSU in Kansas in 1999. I got offered the job. They came down on a Wednesday. The game was on Saturday. Hey, you want to do softball? Sure. Why not? So, and I'm sure that's a cue telling me I need to give up the mic. But anyway, I'll take one more, and then we got to go. Anybody else? Yes, Mayor. Yes, I do. OSU Cowgirl Soccer. Yeah.
Soccer. Were you a soccer person before you started calling soccer?
My kids played it. 2 of them did.
So
that's the only reason I knew what a throw-in was versus a penalty kick. As Colin Carmichael will tell you if he were here, Bill's learned a lot in his 23 years because he didn't know anything before. And he's right. And the other thing about calling soccer is I do it by myself. It's not like TV, no offense again, but where everything is visual. You're the eyes, ears, nose, and throat of the broadcast, right? So you have to be able to tell the story. But no, I like soccer too, to answer all your questions. I do like soccer. It's fun. The games are long, but they're productive. When you're with a program that wins most of the time, so that helps. We're not playing for, Timbuktu University. Reading the newspaper and eating. Is that what that is? I think he's come to the wrong speech. Well, I'm on the radio at 5 o'clock, yes, but no. Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Van Ness. Stillwater is fortunate to have you in our